right, and I have 7 o'clock and it looks like we're all here. So good evening and welcome to the Jefferson County Board of Education regular meeting on Monday, February 22nd. And if you would please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening. Dr. Gibson, do you have any superintendent comments for us this evening? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. I actually have two pieces of information that I think that our families and staff will be interested in. The first is an announcement regarding spring break, and I'm very pleased to announce that Jefferson County Schools will be honoring spring break for our families and for our staff. That is recognized as a time for people to rest and recreate and reconnect with one another. And so we'll be following that traditional spring break schedule. We will not be holding classes. Recognizing that we do have a lot of students and staff who've had an incredibly stressful year and still are in need of a lot of support for social emotional well-being and mental health. We are actually going to undertake a pretty big lift for social emotional support for our staff and for our students. Prior to leaving for spring break, our staff will be delivering a set of lessons on some essential social emotional skills in terms of resilience and self-care and connection. And we will then be offering for people who are interested in them some take-home packets for some things, some activities they could do over spring break to help strengthen those bonds. These we will also be offering during that time some Zoom sessions that are sort of fun, recreational, like electronic digital places for people to meet and hear some speakers about mental health and resilience in kids. All of these will be voluntary activities if parents wish to engage in them. They don't have to. We won't have any. There will be no grades. There will be no additional pressure and stress on children and families during this time. We will offer all of these for parents who have children that they believe have more individualized mental health needs. We're asking them to contact us and doing some individualized activities and care over spring break for them. So we think it's a great opportunity to give everyone what they feel like their family needs during that time. The second piece of good news is that our partners at Shepherd University have notified us that we will be able to utilize the Butcher Center this year for graduation and I know you should have seen my face. I nearly cried tears of joy. So we will be holding an on-site graduation for Jefferson High School and Washington High School on the Sunday, May 23rd, our originally scheduled date. Now, we are meeting with Shepherd University because they have conveyed that understandably there will be restrictions. There will be some changes in how we do graduation. So once we have all of those in place, we will send that notification to families and give them information about what those are and what it will look like. This week, we've created a survey and we will be sending it out this week to last year's graduates with a couple of choices for how they might like to integrate their graduation this year, whether it's one conjoined with the current year graduates, whether it's a separate one. There's a couple of things that we've brainstormed that we could logistically manage. So we're going to send that survey to them and see who's interested, what the numbers look like, and what options we have for that. So a lot of good things coming together for folks that we're happy to be getting back to inching back towards the light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we have Deputy Superintendent of Operations, Ms. White, with her update.
She will be on here momentarily. It takes the program a moment to switch them, much like making one's way very slowly to the podium. It takes a moment for the program to switch them over.
Okay, I've made it to the podium. Good evening, everyone. During my last update for operations, I let you know that we would be exploring our Wi-Fi hotspots in regards to the strategic 5 locations that we've used with buses for the school year for both remote and virtual learning. We were very happy this year in operations to pair with the instructional department to work together to provide internet access in many different ways for all students. We utilized, through the state initiative, Kids Connect, which put internet outside in our parking lots at every school, including the board office. We have strategically placed our 5 buses. We've created community partnerships where local businesses have generously opened their doors for Jefferson County school students to use their Wi-Fi free of charge. And we've provided hotspots for families, which has been a practical and economical solution. So for the last update, during the last month, we've been busy. Transportation and technology have paired together, along with myself, to do some research and mine the data from our carrier. What we've discovered in mining the data is that we have little to no use any longer on the 5 strategically placed Wi-Fi buses. What we're going to do is transition any remaining users by providing and offering them a hotspot should they choose to accept one, which is much more economical than putting 5 buses out for nearly 8 hours a day in these 5 locations. Bus drivers have been notified of this change, and so we'll be abandoning those hotspots on February 26th. And we'd like to thank the bus drivers for their hard work in sustaining those Wi-Fi hotspots. We feel that as we transition out of the pandemic, they're just no longer necessary or fiscally wise. I want to provide you a bond update this evening. And for that bond update, per policy 6200, we've created education specification committees, both at Ranson and Shepherdstown. They will be having their first meetings tomorrow and Wednesday. And the goal is for staff representatives at each school to provide input to architect about what they'd like to see in their schools. So we're very excited to begin the planning with the staff. I know that the principals have selected staff and they've made them representative of both professionals and service personnel. And we look very forward to hearing their input and putting together a project manual prior to the selection of an architect so that we'll be able to express our community vision to the successful architect on these projects. To date, just to bring you up to speed with other bond projects, we have been working hard on the Jefferson High turf field and the tennis renovation. They've had committees, they've had inputs into the project, and as soon as we're able, we will launch those projects along with a bevy of other summer projects, which will kick off our bond season, or our bond spending, so to speak. So we are moving forward with that. Also, we have on the table the SBA TA Lowry HVAC project, which we had to delay because we were unable the past summer to work on it due to HVAC parts. However, I want to let you know this project has movement again. We're progressing with it, as well as progressing with our Wildwood Middle School fields. They are on target. We have the game field that's almost nearly excavated. Of course, the snow that we've had this winter and the mud and the slush have slowed things a little bit the past month. And so our contractor has been diligently working on excavating and getting some of the trees out so that he can start with the practice field. In the area of child nutrition, we continue to encourage and remind families to keep updated applications if they believe they qualify for free meals. Families can do this just by visiting our website at jcswv.org. And from the drop-down menu, families can choose the free meal application, which is available in both English and Spanish. We continue to serve our meals every Tuesday from 9:30 to 10:30. And if there's inclement weather, we want families to make sure that they listen to the robocall so they can get the rescheduled date for meals. I want to thank also the transportation department and the maintenance department and the custodians for the amazing work and the early days and the long hours that they've put in during inclement weather. They've done a fantastic job at keeping our students and staff safe. It has been much appreciated. And I wish for them that spring comes right around the corner. It looks like we're going to warm up this week and maybe we'll have a return to normal as soon as tomorrow. So we look forward to that. Thank you very much. That's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you, Ms. White. All right, next we have the approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting held February 8th, 2021 and the special meeting held February 11th, 2021?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. Any question or discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes from February 8th and February 11th, 2021?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, next up we have citizens' comments, and I believe we have 2 citizens this evening. Do you have them in any particular order, Dr. Gibson?
Yes, ma'am. My understanding is that Ms. Gore signed up first, and she's moving over as a panelist now.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm actually wanting to speak to you tonight as a parent. In the past, I've always had the pleasure of introducing students or others in the community as an award since I was a business teacher for many years, and had a lot of pleasure in introducing those students and community members to you. But tonight I come to you representing my youngest son who attends Wildwood Middle School. He is also a member of the basketball team, and there's been some rumors around, I just wanted to get my facts in order, that the basketball team is not going to be allowed to play out of county. So they have been told they may play the middle schools in the area and just in Jefferson County. Whereas I'm understanding that the high school teams are allowed to go out of the area for their games. And it's my understanding that the principals and I believe maybe athletic directors met and discussed this, but I believe it was before the governor opened K-8 schools 5 days a week, and also before the governor just recently opened up things even more in our state. So I was hoping the board or whomever has the authority to do this can revisit this decision before the season gets well underway.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Ms. Bobby Block.
She's coming over right now.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Block. Whenever you're ready, you can start and I'll start the timer.
Thank you. Good evening. Our children are continuing to watch until they feel safe and protected. A friend's grandson said he and fellow students were afraid that the poisons from the sinkhole would turn them into zombies. He deserves environmental justice. We all deserve environmental justice. This young child sent an email to the Danish embassy asking them to help stop the pollution that threatens the children in West Virginia. We are worthy of the same safe environment that children in Denmark are guaranteed. I'm grateful that he shared his brilliance. We need to shine a light that focuses on our caring for children. Please demonstrate the courage and share their needs. The major issues that require attention still include the sinkhole, a public safety nuisance at North Jefferson, the pandemic challenges that increase the nutritional needs of children during COVID-19, and navigation of the online and in-school learning during the pandemic. There are unbelievable challenges facing our school system and appreciate your commitment. Unfortunately, the directives and support from the state lack clarity. The key message that remains consistent is the manufacturing of mineral wool incorporates toxics, including arsenic, lead, sulfur dioxide, manganese, and coal ash. A number of reports clearly outline the impact these toxics, along with many other chemicals, will have on our children, along with vulnerable persons. The pandemic, as well as frigid weather, is creating greater hazards and obstacles. Imagine the results of arsenic, lead, sulfur dioxide, manganese, and coal ash created zombies attacking our agricultural, farming, equine, and tourist industries. These invading foreign zombies can destroy the natural beauty of Jefferson County. Our already faltering economy has been undermined even more due to the pandemic and frigid weather. What actions can the BoE take to squelch the terrors of the threat of invading zombies? It was shared that the BoE formally requested that Rockwell halt its construction until results from the Independent Human Health Risk Assessment Corporation can be reviewed. No assessment is posted on the BoE website, and Rockwell construction continues. There are a number of people who have faith that together that we can overcome these highly dangerous toxins, just as those listed above, once the area is tested, water and soil, to protect the safety and health of our community. Please open your hearts.
Ms. Block, I'm sorry, but that's your 3-minute limit. Thank you very much. All right. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Dr. Gibson or Ms. Loring, are there any changes to the consent agenda?
I've moved Miss Loring over as a panelist so she could verify and answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Are there any changes or?
No, this evening there are no changes to the posted agenda.
Okay. In that case, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second, Ogden.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Any discussion or questions? All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Unfinished business. Request approval of a vendor for the RFP for local and long distance telephone, I assume.
Yes, ma'am. And for that, we will welcome back Ms. White to present.
Good evening once again. We have 3 bidders for our local long distance vendor. And Frontier Communications is the successful vendor, and it is the one we will be recommending this evening. I'll take any questions should you have them.
Do we currently have Frontier, Joyce? What have we been using? I don't know that.
We currently have Frontier.
Okay. So have we been able to have decent service, unlike what we read on Facebook in the community? Does it service our needs, I guess, is what I'm asking.
It does service our needs. I don't think any company, when you look at long distance or internet, is without hiccups, particularly during a pandemic, but it does serve our needs. And we have a fabulous technology department that works very closely with our vendors to ensure our needs are being met.
And this bid is just for telephone, though. It is not for internet.
This is correct. This is just for telephone. The next one coming up will be for internet.
All right. So is there a motion to approve Frontier as the local and long distance carrier for the school system?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Is there a second?
Second, Joy.
Any questions or discussion for Ms. White? All right. All in favor of approving the Frontier Communications as the local and long distance vendor for Jefferson County Schools? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Kathy, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Yeah, Kathy, you went out.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Cable, we just took a vote and I thought you said aye for voting for Frontier. Let's just do that one more time. All in favor of approving Frontier as the local and long distance carrier?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Can you turn your mic up? I still can't hear you for some reason. I don't know why. I hear everybody else, but I can't hear you.
I'm not sure. I can try to talk a little louder. Does that work?
Pardon?
I can try to talk a little louder.
That works.
All right. I'll use my outside voice.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Ms. White, we have the approval for the selection of the vendor for the RFP for the wide area network, which is the internet.
That's correct. We received 5 bids for internet, and our lowest bid is Frontier Communications, and that will be our recommendation this evening. If you have any questions, I will take those when you are ready.
Is there a motion to approve Frontier for the internet services for the school system?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cable and Mr. Osborne. Any questions about the internet service for Ms. White? All right, all in favor of approving Frontier for the internet services for the county school system? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And as we know, internet is pretty important these days. Next up, we have new business. Consideration of and possible action on supplemental reimbursement resolution of the Board of Education of the County of Jefferson, also known as the Board, supplementing and amending the Board's prior reimbursement resolution and declaration of official intent to reimburse expenditures made from proceeds of bonds or other obligations of the Board, and amending the projects and total amount of such expenditures to be reimbursed from such proceeds. That was definitely written by a lawyer.
That was a lawyer right there. We actually do have our bond attorney and bond finance person on the call to answer any technical questions that the board may have. But in essence, when the voters voted for these projects within the bond, several of these are projects that are seasonal. Of course, we work when we don't have kids on campus, and we work when the weather allows us to. And sometimes that doesn't always align with us waiting until the bonds are sold. So the concept behind this is that Joyce and her staff have worked really hard to get vendors lined up, to get bids ready to go, to start turning the key on getting some of these projects done as soon as the weather breaks and in time for our citizens to enjoy those fields and those facilities. That would entail some expenditures prior to the money coming in from the bond, with the idea that once it comes in, the board would then reimburse themselves for money that they've already put forth, all in the interest of getting those projects done on a timeline that allows citizens to enjoy them in this season this year. So. And there is, as you saw on the addendum, a list of those projects. Which included, as you just saw, the Jefferson High School turf field, the C.W. Shipley awning, which the sooner we get it up, the sooner they're not standing in the rain and the snow. Very importantly, roof work at Blue Ridge, at Wright Denny, at South Jefferson, and at Shepherdstown Middle Schools. This weather is wreaking havoc on some roofs that are in desperate need of repair. Brick repair at Blue Ridge, the HVAC systems at Ranson, tennis court work at Washington High, Jefferson High, bleachers at Charlestown Middle and Shepherdstown Middle, bottle fill stations at all of the schools. We'd love to have those converted ASAP. Pulling some carpet at selected schools and tiling those, and the track at Charlestown Middle School. So those are some of the projects in which we anticipate we can get a start prior to the bond issuance.
So in a nutshell, we had already had a resolution to reimburse ourselves for the turf field at Washington High School, the track at Washington High School, the track at Jefferson, and the new fields behind Wildwood Middle School, correct? And so what this resolution is doing is increasing the amount of spending to $3,840,000 to include those additional projects, just because of time constraints, in order to get them done so that the kids can use them in the following season. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay. And one thing I did notice on the resolution itself was on Exhibit A in the list, it has track at CMTS. It needs to be CTMS. If we could just make that change before we actually sign it. So is there a motion to approve the reimbursement resolution?
So move, Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second, Joy.
Joy. All right. Any questions or discussion about the reimbursement resolution, updating it to include those additional projects? All right. Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the reimbursement resolution?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Ms. White, you've got your work cut out for you. All right. And we do not have an executive session this evening. Is that correct, Dr. Gibson?
Correct, ma'am, we do not.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I just have one quick question. Are we going to get an opportunity, Dr. Gibson, you think, before, well, I would think possibly by next meeting it would have to be to get an idea of how we might look to make any changes we might make, whether it's our reorg plan that we started several years ago or whatever. I know that any things that we're going to look to do, we have to be able to discuss before personnel season. I know you said that, we looked pretty good with numbers, so that's good. We shouldn't have to deal with too many of those kinds of things, even with our student loss. But I just want to make sure what that might be and what overall we may be looking at for the changes we might be making.
Yes, ma'am, that's a good question. We will be bringing to you some personnel change requests in March. We met individually with all of the principals last week and with several central office personnel as we're making some shifts, both because in polling parents, as you heard from Mr. Dilley last time, we have just under 500 families of the ones who responded who are interested in continuing the virtual program into next year. So we are having to do some staff realignment in order to sustain that large a virtual program. And movement between schools and some of our programming, like our NEST programming for children who have some additional mental health needs, and expanding that up to the middle school as those kids are aging out of that pilot program at Driftwood. But we wanted to take the time to meet with every single principal individually and talk through them, what their needs were at their schools, what their numbers were, how we anticipated that going, so that everyone had an opportunity before we presented it to the board. So that will be a March meeting. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
Welcome, ma'am.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then meeting's adjourned at 7:30.